Okay everyone, this is my tutorial on how to elongate the S.H.Figuarts Loki. The first thing that you're going to want to do is start disassembly. We begin by taking off the head. Once the head is removed, you will then remove the arms, followed by the coat with cape, and then the torso midriff area, followed by the feet. Once you have all those parts disassembled, you can put them aside because these are the only pieces that you will need. The first thing that you want to do is heat up the neck inside some hot water, and then the neck joint comes out very easily with some pressure, like so. Again, using hot water, I heated up the torso section. I inserted this small screwdriver into the back. Now, you start from the bottom side because it is glued on the inside, and you'll want to feel a distinctive pop in the middle, because once you feel that pop, you can come to the other side and the piece will just come right out. Very simple. For the feet, you will heat it up as well, and using the flat end of the small screwdriver, you're going to try to pry this out. Now, since we've heated up the plastic, don't worry about deforming the foot. You can always throw it back into the water or heat it up with a heat gun to get it back into shape. And when you're finished, these are the pieces that you should have. Now that you have the neck joint, you're going to take a small saw like this, and you're going to proceed to cut it on that line that goes across the middle. It's pretty easy. I've sped up the video to show once it's cut in half. Here you go. And then you should have the pieces look like this. The original piece is on the left, the piece cut in half is on the right. And then we will put those aside. Now we will take this piece, the mid-torso section, and we're going to take that same saw, and we're going to proceed to cut this piece in half as well. Right across the middle here, you want to do it below that notch. Once that's separated in half, should end up looking like this. The original piece is on the left. You can see that is the top of the torso. This is the bottom piece from the torso. When I'm modifying figures, what I use is styrene plastic sheets. You can get them at any hobby store. The sheet thickness on this is 1.5 millimeters. The tool I'm using is called a degree gauge. It's very useful, especially for small things. This is a 1/10 of a millimeter degree gauge. Get you one. It's very useful. So here I've taken a small piece of styrene and glued it in between the two halves of the neck. Now you want to make sure that the sides are parallel with one another. That's how it originally was. And then you're going to stick that back inside of the neck piece, but we're not going to worry about that right now. So I've got the top of the torso piece, and I've taken a piece of plastic here and cut some notches in with my Dremel tool. Just some round notches. You can do it with an X-Acto knife, just to help it curve around the ball joint better that's on the underside. So I hold this down, tack some glue onto it, and then I will use some accelerator to set it in place. Just going to take a moment to say any type of accelerator or kicker is good, especially if you want to fast set something. I just happen to use this brand. Works on almost any type of cyanoacrylate glue. Just beware that some accelerators will also make styrene parts brittle, but since this is on the underside of this joint, it doesn't need to flex or do anything, so we're not worried about it. Now that I have this glued on, I'm going to take a pair of side cutters. I'm going to cut off this side and trim the other side, and then I'm going to do a little time lapse here on the opposing side, attach it as well, some glue, and again with the kicker. Now what I'm doing here is I'm going to take the top torso joint and I'm going to glue it into place. So a little super glue right there on the insides, and you want to make sure that you line this up correctly. The flat part goes towards the front, and just squeeze it together. Hold it for a couple of seconds, and that should be it. And now we're going to compare it to the one that I've previously done. Similar height, so everything's good. Now originally when you cut that, there is going to be a notch sticking out, so you need to take your side cutters and you're going to cut that notch off. You can cut it perpendicular, you can cut it off at an angle, it doesn't matter. As long as this joint goes into that hole, you're good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this joint back out, and you can see that on the original joint that I made when I did this custom previously, that it's a little bit deeper, and what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to cut around the hole using either some type of grinding stone with your Dremel, or if you want to, you can use an X-Acto knife. Either way, it doesn't matter, but you start on the inside, trimming away. You can see here where I've started to cut, and you're just going to trim around this circle. Be careful not to cut yourself. A little disclaimer for everyone. You're going to go around the hole until you're deep enough that you can set this into this hole, and you're sort of countersinking it into the joint. So here we've finished trimming out what we want. We're going to take the joint, we're just going to plug it in, and you can see how it sits. The lip of that joint actually sits below the edge, but it's pretty similar to the original joint that we modified. And then we're just going to glue that into place with a little bit of super glue as well. We're going to hold that into place for a moment, let it set. So here I've just glued a bit of the styrene onto the end of the joint that goes inside the shoe, and then I've reheated the shoe so that I can stick the joint back into the foot like so, and tack it with a little glue on the inside. Once you're done gluing that piece back into the foot, you just reattach it to the body like so. It's not much of a change, but when you add all the thick parts together, it's pretty significant. Now we are going to take the middle section joint and reattach it. Here you can see that I've not taken that belt off. There is enough slack in that belt to allow for this modification. So once you snap everything back together, you can see that it looks like so. Now that he's back, and don't mind the little gaps either. Not all Lokis are created the same. Some of those gaps will be smaller, some of them will be larger. However, it doesn't matter because you're going to cover that up with the coat. So here you take off the arm, just slip the coat back on, and reinsert the arm, and there you go. Everything is complete as far as the torso and chest. So once we're done with this, we're going to take that neck joint that we had put down before. I've heated up the neck here so that it's pretty soft. I'm going to reinsert this neck joint back into the neck like so. It will stick out of the bottom. You can tack it with a little glue. It's up to you. Once you have that back together, you will then put the neck back into place and then attach the head as it was before, and your character will be fully assembled. Once you're complete with the entire modification, your Loki should stand somewhere between about 6 and 6¼ inches in height, which is a vast improvement over the original height. Again, you can compare it to any of your other figures. And here is Loki next to the final battle Captain America. See, the height's pretty good. I would also suggest that if you're going to do this modification, if you can find a 3D printed scepter, get one. I will measure the one that I 3D printed to give you an idea, but you're definitely going to want something much larger, at least if it bothers you. But here's a good side view, and that's it. Thank you.